Hello again. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike McDonald, and I will be attempting to answer some Bible questions that we have heard. To begin with, the first one I'd like to cover this morning is, do the Ten Commandments apply today? And the simple answer to that is yes, they do. The Ten Commandments, the Decalogue, Exodus chapter 20, verses 1 through 17, are a summary of God's principles pertaining to freedom. They have always applied to the human race in general, and they always will. The Decalogue is not a specific set of detailed laws. It is the principles, the Decalogue, is principles God has set forth for the protection of life, liberty, and property of a people within a national entity. When any nation operates under these principles, these divine norms and standards, there will be individual freedom, national stability, and prosperity in that nation. The Ten Commandments were given to the nation Israel. They were given to that nation only after they became a free people in a national setting. They applied to the entire nation and were enforced by national law. That's another misunderstanding in reference to the enforcement of these laws in the Old Testament. Everybody in the nation, whether they were a believer or not, were responsible for following these laws. That, of course, is not true at any other time. Back now to the Ten Commandments. Two of them need to be addressed. And we will probably just cover one this time. The fourth commandment, Exodus 20, verses 8 through 11, deals with the Sabbath. The root meaning of that word in both the Hebrew and the Greek is to cease or desist. Sabbath, Shabbat, has a double B in it, and the doubling of that letter intensifies the meaning of the word. So it has the meaning of complete cessation of what you're doing. This applies to the seventh day of the week, Saturday. The commandments this commandment says two things. It says to remember, and it says to keep it holy. Literally, holy means to set it apart. In this case, set it apart from common use for the Lord. Set aside the seventh day in order to cease doing or stop doing, rest. Stop doing whatever you're doing. And it has reference to the reason given was because God ceased doing when He was reestablishing the world. What we are to remember and why we are to remember that is given in verse 11. Believers in this dispensation, the church age, starting with Pentecost, are not under these laws, and is not under, in particular, this law pertaining to the Sabbath. And there are reasons for that. These laws have been set aside. Read the epistle to the Galatians and you might understand that better. We worship, Christians in this dispensation, worship on the first day of the week. And those reasons are, number one, the first day of the week was Resurrection Day. That was a Sunday. Reason number two, the day the church age began, 50 days after the Resurrection Day, was also a Sunday. And that was Pentecost. And reason number three, Scripture tells us to assemble together for worship on the first day of the week. Acts chapter 20 verse 7, 1 Corinthians chapter 16 verse 2, Colossians chapter 2 verse 16 and 17. However, notice the last sentence of verse 11. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Blessed indicates that God pronounced it a source of blessing. This one day of rest each week is a principle of blessing. For the reasons given, God stopped providing on the seventh day because He had already provided everything needed for humanity. The word hallow means set apart. The verb tense PL imperfect in the Hebrew indicates that this setting apart is something that is ongoing and will last. As a matter of fact, it will last until the Lord returns and human history stops. Thank you very much.
There's a lighthouse on a hillside that overlooks life's sea, and when I am tossed about, it sends out a light that